Hey everybody, it's Todd on the road with Copley Global Solutions. And welcome back to our video section of the book where we expand on the chapter and the workbook that we just finished. And we also bring on some people to include friends, colleagues, and of course, some of my heroes out there that I believe specifically embody the theme or promise that you just finished. Now, before we start again, thanks for being part of the book and joining us in Outrunning the Light and embarking on your own journey of discovery and promise. And congratulations on making your way through the first four chapters. And this one specifically, I cultivate passion and a sense of awe. Now, for us, passion is such a big part of how we perceive the exceptional life. Can you even begin to imagine having an exceptional life without having that passion for what you are and what you are doing? And the same goes for a sense of awe. When we were developing the subtitles or the chapter words, it's like you don't hear that word a lot, awe. But for me, that word inspires endless fascination, curiosity, and emotion. And can you remember the last time you were struck with a sense of awe? Now, here's a funny story. For me, I certainly can. It was today. I'm in Barcelona, Spain this week, and I walked into the Sagra Familia. Definitely a bucket list for many, many people on there. And I don't care how many times you've been there or how many times you've seen it. That is probably the definition of a true sense of awe. So in the workbook that you just finished, I really put my coach hat on this one and explained the use of several tools to include the Japanese Ikigai and the DISC profile. Two great methods for helping dig deeper into our passion and what motivates us. And with that spirit in mind, my guest today is not only an amazing business consultant, she's a dear friend going way back, probably to where we were both still working and cultivating our deep rooted passions. I would like to welcome to the program Bette Smith. Bette, are you there?
Yeah, hi Todd. It's great to be here.
Yeah, hey, thanks for joining us today. Your name came up as part of this, and at least in my mind, because we've had some super fun times, and I know the amount of passion that you bring to what you do in your role now. And I just wanted to do a quick kind of introduction to you as well. But like I said, not only is Bette a great friend of mine, she's a management consultant with over 20 years of experience working in both the nonprofit and the for-profit sectors, including a multitude of Fortune 500 companies. She's also been a Russian interpreter, a wine educator, and sommelier, and the VP of communications at a global software firm. She is passionate, and that's why we have her on here, about change, about leadership, and the fun things: travel, wine, yoga, paddle boarding, and certainly family and friends. Bette, it's great to see you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. I wish I were there with you in
Yeah,
Barcelona in a cafe and
yeah. I remember the one trip where you and Jim had come over to France to Bourguignon. And remember we did a Fourth of July party for the whole neighborhood there.
yes, I absolutely remember that.
That will stand out, of course, in my memories the rest of my life. That was super, super fun. But listen, hey,
Mhm.
I want to jump right in on this. You know, I try and formulate two or three questions that I think kind of, go deep into the topic that we're discussing. And, I've provided you've seen the fourth promise. When you read that about cultivating passion and a sense of awe, what first came to mind for you?
Yeah, I absolutely loved that this chapter in the Fourth Promise is about passion and awe. They're things I think about often. And it was also just a gift to reflect on that. So, like, passion, right, is really internal, right? So, I have, some Italian friends and they'll talk about the fire, right? But it's that thing inside of us, it's the fire, it's the spark. And it could be for, you were talking about curiosity, our curiosity about something. It could be joy, it could be romantic love, but it's internal. And I think of awe as something external, right? That it really it's outside of us, right? And it may inspire that spark. And so I love thinking about these two ideas together because passion is kind of individual and unique about us, and we can share it with others. But a sense of awe is something that is really about our common experience as humans on this planet. And it brings us together in some sense.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's really neat how you kind of taken that as passion being an extra or an internal thing, and a sense of awe being more of an external thing. Are you still there with us? I'm looking to see you might have an internet problem.
Yeah.
Okay, you're still there.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
still here.
The so let's take that a step further here. As a business consultant, tell me about when you see passion in one of your clients, or let's say, or even vice versa, when there's a lack of that. How does that work as a business consultant working with a company?
Yeah, I feel so fortunate in my work that I get to be with so many incredibly brilliant, intelligent people. So both leaders at companies and also the people who work for those companies. And, thinking about this question, a CEO came to mind. I work with her very closely, and she's brilliant, right? She has a PhD in molecular biology, right? She's the CEO of a pharmaceutical R&D lab. She's got an MBA. Like she's brilliant, right? She's one of those people. She's one of my heroes. And she had the opportunity to kind of step aside from her CEO role and reflect. Sometimes we're in it and we don't have that time for reflection. And she had the opportunity to really look at that what she was passionate about was really about the science and the innovation and being able to develop products that help people who have really challenging illnesses. Like she deeply, deeply cares about patients. And I think in stepping aside, she realized, wow, I was just so overtaken by the business side and the politics. And there's, politics and working inside companies. But she was able to really reconnect with what her passion is. And I think that, this is relatively recent. I think she's gonna move in a different direction and for her a more exciting direction. So I think passion is and reconnecting with it if you aren't connected with it is critically important as a leader.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that because I've dealt with some situations like that in my coaching thing where people, or let's say leaders of a business, have started out and completely passionate about what they were doing, and then of course had progressed in their careers to a point where it was no longer about passion. It was about delivering
Yeah.
the equity shares and the revenue projections and all of that. And not everybody is attuned to that. So that's really interesting to hear. What about, is there anybody that you've seen or worked with that shows that lack of passion, and how did you deal with that?
So I think it really ties into what I was sharing about this CEO. I mean, she had reached this point where um, the stresses of the business were really impacting her. And I see that, we talk a lot about burnout, right? But I'm seeing more and more of that at all levels within business. And I think that it's it is about taking that time to really reflect on what are my personal values, what is my passion, uh, instead of showing up and not really being engaged and not really having a sense of being aligned with uh, your life's purpose. I mean, if you want to
Right.
make it that big. So
Right.
I see it across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, let's kind of pivot from this a second, because this question was kind of focused on the business side of this
Yeah.
with business leaders here. But how do you see that translating over, and how important is passion and doing what you love to having an exceptional life.
Yeah, so I love that that's such a focus, like having the exceptional life. And sometimes we're really fortunate, right? We can bring all those things together. So when you were talking about what I'm passionate about at the beginning, I am really super passionate about change management and leadership, but I have all those other things I'm passionate about. And ideally, I can bring those all together, right? I
Yeah,
can do it all. I can travel and taste wine and be, doing my business work, and it doesn't always work that way. And we have life stages, right? And
yeah,
so sometimes where your passion is not at work, and that's okay. And the person I thought about right away was my dad.
yeah.
So my dad worked at IBM. He was like a lifer at IBM, and he was really good at that work. He enjoyed that work, and it wasn't his passion. So, Todd, I don't know if you know what my dad's passion was. It's actually
I think
something,
you told me this story one time.
yeah. It's something we both share, but he was super passionate about music, and he started playing the banjo when I was born, the year I was born. And that was where he really lived his exceptional life. I mean, he practiced almost every day. He joined a banjo band. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing. And then when my dad died, we did a riverboat cruise with banjos because that's what my dad would have wanted. So I think you find your way to live that exceptional life. And it may be through your career and profession if you're super lucky to bring that all together, or it may be through just living a passion in another way.
So that's such a great story. And yeah, I think it is possible to, to have, a personal side of the passion and as well as having what you do in your business life, reflect that as well. Well,
Mm.
talking about from going from passion and the second part of this book, or the chapter at least, which is having a sense of awe. I write in there that I think that that word and that term is just so underused in today's world. You and I are the first generation to have lived through the non-internet age and into whatever we're in now. And that's both fascinating, but it's also scary.
Yeah.
To contemplate that evolution. And what are some of the things today that hold you in awe?
Well, Todd, it was such an amazing year. So for me, it's mostly nature. And this year, I got to experience both the Northern Lights, even here in Indiana, and
Right.
total solar eclipse. So those are like remarkable experiences. And I'd never experienced a total solar eclipse. That was definitely an awe-inspiring experience. And what I'd share though is that awe is available to us every day.
Yeah.
For me, it's as simple as going outside at night and looking up at the stars, at the night sky. This morning, it's having my cup of coffee and I watched the sunrise. So I
Yeah.
think we forget that that's there, it's available. Like your experience today going to Sagrada Familia, that's like an amazing, awe-inspiring place. Yeah.
Absolutely. When we were talking about doing this interview, you had mentioned an old shared friendship of ours, and somebody I hadn't even thought about in many, many years, but Natalie. And
Yeah.
what was the story that you were going to tell
Yeah.
about her?
So Natalie's a dear friend, and 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years, might have been a little bit longer, we were taking a, small break in North Carolina at our friend's retreat called Fire Creek Retreat out near the Blue Ridge Mountains outside of Asheville. And it was just the first night there, and it was dark, and we're there, and you may know where I'm going, Todd. It was, I think we were there at the beginning of June, and all of a sudden we start seeing bing, bing, bing. We see fireflies.
All right.
So
Yeah.
Natalie has lived in the West her whole life, and there's a little bit more to the story, but I'll tell you in a moment. But
Uh,
she'd never seen a firefly. She'd read about
what?
them in, but she'd never, and she was just I mean, the awe was just, she couldn't go to bed that night. She was so excited. And this is someone who, I mean, she works as a public defender. Like she sees some of the less appealing aspects of human nature and what can go on in the world. And there she was, like a kid, and
Yeah.
just such an amazing experience. And that's those sparks, those fireflies, really, I think, touched her very deeply.
Yeah, a good pure sense of awe
Yeah.
on there. And when you see Natalie, make sure you say hello from me. It's
Oh
been
yeah.
many years since we've crossed paths. I've got one last quick question for you here. I want to talk about this. You know, in the book, we bring into play a couple of tools, and we try and do this in every workbook because it's easy to talk about cultivating the passion and a sense of awe. But how do you go about doing it? And
Mhm.
that is the whole purpose of the workbooks. And I also try to bring in a couple, sometimes they're business tools, sometimes they're personal performance tools. But in this chapter, we actually bring in two. One is the DISC profile, which is an assessment that I use quite a bit. But there's one that I think that you wanted to have a little bit of a conversation on. It's called the Japanese Ikigai. And this is a tool that brings together four different aspects of your life around what you're good at, what you you love, and what your main passion for, and what will sustain you and what people want. And those four things, when they come together, can be very powerful if you think about them there. What are your thoughts on the Ikigai?
Yeah, no, I love the Ikigai, and I'll share, I've had a pretty eclectic career, right? So I've done everything from being a college administrator to a Russian interpreter to a wine educator to, a business consultant, right? So it's pretty eclectic. So I've had my share of life transitions and career transitions, and I think Ikigai is such a great framework for all of us to look at and think about, yeah, what are my talents? What are the things that are my gifts that I want to share? So, start with that place. And then what do you really, and that, of course, Todd ties into this conversation about passion, right? And so we've talked a little bit about you need to, if you're not connected with that, you need to reconnect. So that maybe through reflection or mindfulness or journaling or doing something different, right? So like thinking about that, thinking about where you can be of service. And I think about this every day. Like it's not just about what do I want to get out of today, but how can I help someone else today? Where can I
Yeah.
be of service? So I love how it brings in that aspect. And then the practical side, like can I make a living doing this? Or can I have a lifestyle that works for me? And that's really different for all of us, right? There are times in my life where I've needed very little, and other times where I've wanted a bit
More.
more, something a bit different.
Yeah.
So I think what I would say, for your readers is just really use it as a framework. Use it as a framework to really think about, especially if you're facing a transition, uh, what you might want to do next. So,
Absolutely. And that's exactly how we use it. And it's funny, you haven't had the opportunity to see the whole book
yeah.
yet. Because it is a bit of a circuitous type of role. And in chapter two, we talk deeply about true purpose and desire and how you get that. And then you hit on this as well, the service aspect that we bring into this during chapter five on leadership and accountability and the practicing of leadership and bringing the service element into that. So you're way ahead of us on a lot of this here. It's fantastic. And listen, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy day to hop on here with us and be a part of this and share your thoughts on cultivating passion and a sense of awe. It's really a pleasure to have you on.
Well, I'm both honored and flattered to be a part of it, and I just can't wait to read the whole book. I think it's
Yeah,
going to be a wonderful thing.
You're going to love it. You're going to see
Yeah.
yourself in it quite a bit. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Excellent.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Best to you. And thanks again, Bet. We'll see you soon.
All right, take care.